Hey, Mix RPD here with you. So it's mix breakdown time again, and we got Class Sick here, brilliant rapper. So I mixed him on this song here, Haunted Mind, the D Money track. He was a feature on this track. That's the first time I mixed him, and then I mixed this whole album for him. So we're gonna get into this track here, Mutation of a Hustler. So let's give it a little run.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory. Hey, differences, what they choose to do about it. Heroes use pain, villains make you fight.
I've upheld the old kingly. I go broke before you king me. At a point where hell is dreamy, cause I burn for them to see me. It's only I who could redeem me. Foundation built from rubber.
Okay, so let's get into it here. We got the beat all on one track, which is the case for the whole album. So most of the work is on the vocals, but let's look at the beat here. So I did a little bit of widening of the mid-range frequencies here, and a little bit of, this is a multi-band compressor, but I'm actually using it for expansion of, again, the mid-range, 1 to 8 kilohertz here, just expanding a little bit. Check it out. So that's with that off, back on. So that's just, both of those plugins are just waking it up a little bit, and then just a little bit of upward compression here and a tiny little bit of soft clip. So that's what's going on there, and then it's going off to the instrumental bus here, and we got just a little bit of EQ. So it actually sounds, it looks like I'm cutting a lot of frequencies here. I'm cutting some mid-range, and I'm cutting like a higher, I'm assuming this is like the ride cymbal or something up here. But it's got a little bit of a shelf raising up this whole area as well, 4.3 decibels. So it actually sounds darker with it off, even though it looks like I'm cutting a lot of higher frequencies. And then I think it just has a little limiter on the end. Yeah, just a tiny bit of limiting. And that's all that's going on specifically with the instrumental. So let's get to the vocals. We've got an intro track here, which is like a talking kind of thing.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory. Hey, the difference is what they choose to do about it.
So we're doing a bit of processing on here, a little bit of compression, but this is the big sound changer. So the Soundtoys Alter Boy. So it's pitching it up a full octave, 12 semitones, and the formant control here, it's making it like higher pitch. Or pitch probably isn't the right word, but it's making it more towards like a female voice, basically. So then the distortion here, the drive is maxed out. I got it all the way up. But then for the whole plugin, I'm turning the mix down to basically like 10% sort of thing.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory. Hey, difference is what they choose to do.
So if we bypass this plugin, it sounds like this.
Choose to do about it. Heroes and villains
Back on.
always have the same backstory. Hey, the difference is what they choose to do.
So that's adding some grime for sure. And then after that, a little bit of soothe.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory. Hey,
So let's bypass all these plugins.
what they choose to do about it. Heroes use pain. Villains what use fight.
So that's a big difference. And then you can hear there's also some delay on there. So that would be this quarter note delay here. So basically it's in automation here, so the volume is coming up for certain parts and back down for other parts.
Before you king me, at a point where hell is dreamy, cause I burn for them to see me. It's only I who.
And then the other thing on there is the H3000 harmonizer. So it's this guy here.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory. Difference is what they choose to do about it.
So that's what that's adding. And then we're boosting up the mid-range here like crazy to make it more like a telephone voice.
I've upheld the
Villains always have the same backstory.
So if we bypass this
The
EQ,
difference is what they choose to do about it.
sounds much more muddy,
Heroes use pain.
darker, right? So a lot going on here. So let's bypass all this stuff and this is basically what it would have sounded like in the beginning.
Heroes and villains always have the same backstory.
So very different.
Pain. The difference
Back
is
on.
what they choose to do about it. Heroes use pain. Villains make it quiet.
Okay, so onward from there, we get to the main vocal. Classic. So this was his main track, and then you can see I duplicated it here. So this is like parallel processing kind of thing, and the reason I did this was because I thought it. So if you listen to the whole vocal sound, it's very saturated. It's like thick.
I've upheld the old kingly. I'll go broke before you king me at a point. Because I burn for them to see me. It's only I who could redeem.
So the reason I duplicated it here was I wanted to put this distortion here, the thermonic culture vulture, say it with me now, on his voice, and then turn it down quite a bit. So this is like minus, like it's really quiet, like minus 44. But listen to this on its own. It sounds crazy. So that's mixed in as the duplicate, and then this is the main track here.
Truth I faced, they had on cover crew was fake and never loved us. They were scared to claim that.
But it still sounds pretty saturated, right? So what else are we doing here? They both tracks have pretty much the same, well, exactly the same EQ. Because when you have a duplicate, you don't really want to do like crazy different EQs. It can cause like phase issues, so you got to be careful with that. So it's just literally the same EQ lazily copied across, boosting a little bit of mid-range. And then both of these tracks are going off to the lead vocal bus here. And then we're getting busy. So let's play it.
Heroes use pain. Villains make it quiet.
I've upheld the old kingly. I'll go broke before you king me at a point.
So first we just have some compression here, a bit of de-essing, cleaning up some of the nastier higher frequencies. There's also another de-esser later on, working a little bit higher up. So this one's like 5.5K and the other one's like 7.5. And then we got the SSL channel here. So this is just, we're not using anything except the compressor.
Killer in the mind, son of Luca, I'm revived by the simplify. Won't forget when tempers fly. My descent defines resilience.
And then this is why the whole thing sounds a bit saturated. I think a good portion of the distortion is coming. Is coming from this guy here.
Finds resilience shine. Heaven sent my shrine, benevolent. Since my birth commenced, please don't send comments to my ascend. I'm fine. Every word's a tear I cry. My bloodline, just in time, no compliance.
So that's that one. And then, as I often do, just a little bit of upward compression after the distortion. And then the pull tech here is boosting a little bit of 100 hertz to thicken him up, and a bit of 10 kilohertz to brighten the voice. So let's hear with that bypassed.
Lines won't conform with divine. Got my chakras in the lines. When there's every I can spy. See, I started as a pawn, then I set the chessboard on fire.
So this is an EQ unit, obviously, right? But I mean, we're actually getting some distortion from this because it's like an analog EQ. So I'm pushing probably a bit too much level of the vocal into it, but it's not really too much for me because I like the distortion that I'm getting out of it. So that's that, like the decapitator and the pull tech here are both kind of adding up to give me a bit more of a saturated sound. And then we got the soothe.
Been told that I will break, but redefine what was required. Amalgamation, heart, mind, soul, head, or design. Share again, vision. That means.
So the soothe is usually used to keep the voice from being, or keep the sound from being harsh. But I think in this case, I'm using 2 or 3 different instances of it, and what I'm getting is just sort of a more like a grainy sound out of it, because I'm like literally like stripping out some frequencies, and but I like the grainy sound. It's adding up to contribute to the saturated sound, and altogether I like it.
vision, that means I see through the foes. Watch out for the outside, you can spot them by the clothes. Realize they look like you and now you start to feel exposed. Don't think because the streets you live on that you...
It sounds cleaner to me with the soothe off. So I like it a little bit more saturated in this case. And then we got the Tube Tech compressor. So this is just keeping the voice just a little bit more forward in the track.
That you can't betray the code, cause no one checks on mama when you sent on down the road. Paint the pain vivid as Tangero's blade. Evil sway heroes to misbehave. Change rap Titus, coulda Pika's fate. So survivor of the Curtis clan. Every bunch of Duke and land replenish starving land.
Just getting about a decibel of compression out of that one. So this is the second de-esser, as I mentioned already. And then we have this delay here right on the track, or right on the bus. So both the duplicate track and the normal track are going through this, but it's off for most of the song, and then it's just to feature a little special moment here at the end.
Show the spleen of both your knees to show the feeling scenes. I slayed the beast in God's regime. If life's a gift, I'm Constantine, magnificent like Steve McQueen.
Right, so that Steve McQueen line, I wanted to do like a delay throw. So this delay is off for the whole song until it gets to that point, and then it goes Steve McQueen, 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 like that. So that's what's doing that. And we have this limiter here. So this is just taking the very top peaks of the vocal off. It's only working every once in a while. Let's look.
I'm one of very few. They dataless, I'm nephew, said I'd never fly, I flew. They cut me out their life, hey, I was down to die for you. They said classic is a menace, I guess violence is my fetish. Getting high off the vendettas, but morals...
It's taking off just like less than a decibel. Just little 0.2, 0.5 little peaks. So that's just, that's all that one's doing. And then in the end, it just has a little bit of extra EQ, just rolling off the low end again, keeping that mud in check, and a little bit of a presence boost at 2.5 kilohertz. Okay, so then we get into the fun stuff, because there's a crazy amount of effects and parallel chains on this, actually. So it has my lead vocal parallel chain here. So we have like crazy, insane distortion, but like the mix is on like 1%. Let's see, can I play this chain on its own?
For you, they said classic is a menace. I guess violence is my fetish. Getting high off the vendettas, but morals keep me tethered. They be jaded if you better. I've been saved through the music, scathed by your muses. I've escaped.
Yeah, so that's the whole parallel chain on its own here. So you can hear it's pretty like distorted sounding and compressed. So this distortion is like maxed out. The needle is like just on like +3 the whole time.
I've escaped all my abusers,
But as I said, like the mix is down on like 1% or something like that. And then it's got a bit of de-essing here. Probably pretty aggressive because you don't really want sizzly S sounds coming from this line.
Still a junkie, not a user. The samurais arrived. It's your cue, pray for demise. Ancestors scrutinize. See the killer in the mind. Son of Luca, I'm revived by the simplify. Won't forgive when tempers fly. My descent to...
Yeah, you can hear it's like inappropriately sizzly. I wanted this track to sound darker, so that sounds good like that with the de-esser on there. And then the compressor is this DBX160.
My descent defines resilience shine. Heaven sent my shrine benevolent. Since my birth commenced, please don't send comments in my ascend, I'm fine. Every word's a tear I cry, my bloodline.
So it's a decent amount of compression, but not like super, super crazy. It's more about the distortion, I think. But then we got the MV2 on the other end, so this is squishing it together even more.
My bloodline, just in time, no compliance, won't conform, we're defiant. Got my chakras in the lines, want the Zerif I can spy, see.
So if we cut out this whole parallel chain, it sounds like this.
See, I started as a pawn, then I set the chessboard on fire. Been told that I will break, but redefine what was required. Amalgamation, heart, mind, soul, head, or design. Share again, vision, that means I see through the foes. Watch out for the outside, you can spot them by the clothes. Realize they look like...
So that's what that's doing. And then it also has this which is labeled as background parallel, but hey, I don't follow rules. So it's just got this radiator on here. So this is again going to be thickening it up, adding some harmonics.
They look like you and now you start to feel exposed. Don't think because the streets you live on that you can't betray the code. Cause no one checks on mama when you sent.
So this chain just sounds like this on its own.
When you sent on down the road, paint the pain vivid as Tangero's blade.
So let's take out this second parallel chain and hear what the whole thing sounds like.
Blade, evil sway heroes to misbehave. Change rap titles, could have peak us rate. So survivor of the Curtis clan. Every bunch of Duke and then replenish starving land. Eyes burn.
So that's what's getting added in there. And then we have a little bit of delay and reverb as well. So we got this eighth note.
Destiny carved by their hands. Roseco's ghost spoke to me. He said.
But there's a decent amount going on these effect returns as well, or these effect chains, I should say. So a bit of like I used a limiter going in because I wanted these effects to stay very consistent. So there's a bit of limiting going in to control the peaks, going into the delay unit, and then on the other end a bit of EQ. And a bit more limiting. Well, a lot more limiting.
He said you right where you supposed to be, blessed to rebuild the culture. Maybe when I'm gone, you'll notice me. I'm your gummy.
Actually, these faders are pulled down a lot, so it looks like a lot, but you're only getting about 3. So about 5 decibels combined between the two. And then a bit more EQ even. And even more EQ. You don't have to be afraid about overprocessing these too much because, I mean, there's not the main sound, right? So rolling off the low end and the high end and then boosting up the mid-range. So it's focusing the delay into the mid-range. And you can see there's some automation, volume automation on this as well. So it comes up here. Let's hear this. So it goes fine, 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 fine. So that's the purpose of that automation there. You can see there's a bunch of parameters just automated throughout this mix. It's too much to go over. There's a bit of a hall reverb, believe it or not, on the vocal as well, but it's very quiet, I think. So a bit of a hall reverb here. Once again, the same limiting just before the reverb, and then going into about 2 second hall. We can hear that.
Amalgamation, heart, mind, soul, head, or design.
And then this reverb here is very quiet, turned down quite a bit, but this is like a plate reverb, so it sounds like this on its own, which you can probably hardly hear because, like I say, it's pretty quiet. But again, the same, just little tiny bit of limiting going in, a little bit of EQ, cutting some mid-range, about 1.5 kilohertz, and boosting 600 a little bit, and then squeezing the reverb together after the plug-in here. And then again, just a little bit more limiting on the end of it. So just to try to keep the level consistent, so it's not coming up and down, peaking.
Realize they look like you and
then we got this one here, which is a delay. So this is like a fast delay. 30-second note it's set to, but it's like verby sounding delay, if that makes any sense. So again, the same limiter before it and a bit of a squeeze afterwards, but not too much, mostly just raising up the low sounds.
understand destiny.
And then this H3000 harmonizer again, which is on the intro as well.
When I'm gone, you'll notice me. You got me with the death November.
So yeah, other than that, we pretty much just have the outro. So let's go there.
Our blood turned to steel. We bathed in the fire. The hustle's not a choice.
And then we got this outro track here to finish it off. So again, we're taking off a lot of the low end and some of the high end and boosting the mid-range. So focusing the sound into the mid-range like a telephone sort of thing. Let's listen to this.
With our soul embedded in the soil of the earth, our blood turned to steel. We bathed in the fire.
So we got this short reverb on it here. We can listen to this.
Fire. The hustle's not a choice. The evolution is earned.
So it's like less than half a second sort of thing, short reverb, but pretty loud. It sounds like, yeah, like -10, so up pretty loud. That's a good way to get volume out of something, make it sound bigger without sounding reverby or just simply turning it up.
With our soul embedded in the soil of the earth.
And at the end here, there's this whispering.
We are the mutation. We are the chosen.
So you can see this de-esser turns on just for the whispering here because it was extra sizzly. So we're hitting it pretty aggressive here, around just below 10 kilohertz.
Heroes and villains.
So one thing that's cool here that I forgot to mention is there was one part where this extra distorted track with the culture vulture on it just didn't quite sound right, so I muted it just for one moment here.
Blessed to rebuild the culture, me bestow the old and be upon all those whose souls empty. Maybe when I'm gone, you'll notice me.
So when he says maybe when I'm gone, I took out the distorted track here because it didn't quite sound right to me. So that's just a little detail. Just mutes for that second and then it's back in. So that's pretty much everything that's going on in the mix. And then the whole thing's going off to my master bus, which really there isn't a lot going on. It's pretty much just going through this EQ flat, and then it's got a little bit of limiting on the end. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole mix, I think. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there, and hopefully you learned something today. Have a good one.